Get ready for hot takes and insight from local industry experts in real estate, business, and lifestyle. He used to play ball with the Padres. He played hockey for the Lobos. Now they're crushing it in the real estate game. Together, they'll showcase the best of the Duke City. This is All About You, ABQ.
Yeah, that's right. It's all about you, ABQ. Now, the goal of the show is to highlight our city's industry experts in real estate, culture, and lifestyle, so that you walk away with some value and feeling inspired. Now, the way we like to do that is to answer the questions that you may have or interview the guests that you'd like to see. So we invite you to join the conversation. You can reach out using the hashtag below or join our email list to get some timely tips about our community and real estate market. Hey, this is all about you, ABQ.
I'm Grant Harvey, mortgage broker, NMLS 364964. Reach out if you want to buy or refi. This is Skip Adams.
Yeah, hey, it's Skip at Sold by Skip, real estate brokerage here in Albuquerque. We've been operating since 2005. Now, you may have seen Grant as the head coach of the University of New Mexico men's Lobo hockey team, and now he's absolutely crushing it in the mortgage space.
You've seen Skip on HTV's House Hunters, and he's in the top 2 producing in realtors in all the market. So,
thank you for that. I appreciate it. So, big show today. Here's why you're going to want to stay tuned. We've got a couple of guests. Grant's going to jump into the mortgage minute. We're going to bring in our second guest. And then we always end the show with my favorite segment, which is called Skip's Tips. So our first guest today, talk a little bit about who we can expect.
We will have PhD Miles Harvey, Professor Miles Harvey on the show, who will talk about his book, his development in esports, and his experience as a student loan debtor and how that's affecting the housing industry.
Yeah, no, that's big stuff to talk about. And I think it's very relevant to what we're doing here in the show, talking about Albuquerque, but also the real estate market. The next guest we're going to bring in is Matthew Binder, he's a longtime friend of the show. And Matt's got a funny background in the fact that he's an artistic whiz kid, specializes in solar panels. He's a published author. He's going to talk about his latest project coming up. He's got a new book that's in publication. It's going to hit the market next year. So he's on the book tour. We were happy to book him today. So that's Matthew Binder. And again, here's why you're going to want to stay tuned. Skip's Tips. Did I tell you about Skip's Tips? Dude, current events. What have you been up to recently?
Got situated with glasses because I guess I'm getting older, and it's just a hard truth. But I'm going to be a glasses guy. You may see me next episode with them. What did you do?
At Sandia Prep, there's an Ultimate Frisbee League, and it's absolutely freezing. But I got out there outside of my comfort zone, scored some points for the ladies. But to speak to what you were saying earlier, Grant, about being old, getting older, I tore my hamstring.
It sounds like we had a loss. Did we have a loss? Let's talk about current events. And a current event that I think is pertinent to Albuquerque or nationwide is student loans. What have you heard about student loans and the recent freeze and then forgiveness?
No, I think it plays a big role in not just the economy, but kids coming up, because imagine starting under a mountain of $100K in student loan debt before you even get into the into the business world.
Yeah. Do you know that 55% of former current students have student loans, and they average about $20,000? So it's something that weighs heavy on your average student and future student, and I think it's a conversation piece that we need to keep talking about. But I do know that there were some lawsuits, and the current forgiveness is on hold. So that'll be yet to be determined. Maybe we'll talk about it again.
Well, let's talk about it a little bit more in depth as we transition into the Mortgage Minute.
The Mortgage Minute today, we're going to talk about debt to income ratio and how student loans affect that number. So many times when I have applicants for house purchase, we have to calculate debt to income ratio. What happens is student loan minimum payment factor into that. So let me tell you how debt to income ratio works. Let's say you make $10,000 a month, no more than about $4,500 a month should be allocated for debts with your house payment, right? So that's where student loans come into this. What they'll do is you take your minimum monthly payment or 1% of your loans, and that factors into your debt to income ratio. So when I meet with some customers, one of the first things I ask is, do you have student loans? And that heavily weighs into how much they can afford a month. So it's important to meet with a mortgage professional. If you're about to buy a house, just know they're going to ask you about your student loans, and you'll see it kind of robs some of your debt to income ratio. So the student loan topic is big because I think it could free up a lot of purchasing power for your average graduate. So, and that's your Mortgage Minute.
Great little transition there, and I think that the Mortgage Minute really touched on something today, the student loan debt and the pitfalls of taking on student loan debt when it comes to real estate. This is why you're going to want to stay tuned. We're going to bring up our first guest is Dr. Miles Harvey. So thank you guys. Stand by.
The author of Esports Research and Integration Education and a PhD in digital literacy is going to be with us. And let's get right into our guest, Miles Harvey. Miles, tell us a little bit about your background in Albuquerque specifically and your community involvement.
Born and raised here, and wanted to be an educator.
Let's touch on the debt. It was a topic at the start of the show. I wanted to basically preface about a guest who has experienced student debt and your testimonial about what that's happened in terms of qualifying for a house and maybe the perils of student loans and maybe the gifts of it.
You get your bachelor's, you're like, great. You get your master's, you're like, okay, that's pretty outlandish here when you're thinking about going to the K through 12 setting just to be a teacher. I think that's pretty ridiculous, right? I mean, I didn't go to school to get a psychology degree I didn't use, right? I tried to get something that I was going to be investing in and using on a daily basis. And so that's kind of a scary thing. You know, some people think, I'm going to go to college. How am I going to pay for this? I go, well, yeah, what are you going to do with it afterwards then, right? And the whole point of going to school was to use that so I could help out Albuquerque, right? I could help out the citizens. I could be a good teacher. So I went to school to focus on being a language arts teacher. Because, I like literature, I like kind of that meaning-making stuff.
You're a cunning linguist.
Yeah, let's just be honest here. I have a way with words. But I think what's more important was figuring out how to get kids more engaged. I'd like to say that we've grown about 1% per year, and that has to do with, taking care of the community you grow up in. I take pride in the fact that I try to go to school to do something that would help out this city. So, the idea of reading books and watching movies is one thing, but we forget all the other digital components to education. We have social media, we have video games, we have VR. I mean, the world of digital literacy is everywhere. So we are trying to do things that not only uphold traditional literacy standards, but also entertain the fact that there's very real and innovative ones happening right here in this town. We get to do things that other schools or classrooms don't really think about yet. So we're playing video games as literature, we're diffusing bombs in VR. The idea is to kind of entertain what kids do at home so that they bring it home to school and they build an interest with learning that I think some kids feel very disconnected with. A year's worth of work, 15 chapters, 35 authors, 6 countries involved, and they all want to know, how does Albuquerque do it? How do we do it here? And how can we be a leader for the rest of the world? It gets kids to want to come to school. It makes them want to compete. It's all about soft skills. I mean, it's the 10 gentle things that get kids into science, engineering, and math. And we always talk about STEM, but it's a real easy, word to throw around. This is something a little bit more reasonable. We're actually doing something with science instead of just talking about it. It is science in action. It is sports in action. And really, it's the best thing I think APS has done in a long time is put scholastic esports into action.
Talk a little bit more about esports because I know you're big into coaching.
We got this great jersey. Of course, my gamer tag's Dr. 450. We probably have one of the best esports teams in the country. Middle school, high school, college. It's amazing to see that around the nation, people are trying to play us in games like Rocket League, League of Legends, Super Smash, Street Fighter 2 Turbo, you already know.
Well, how can people reach out to you, to follow you, to get more information? And how can you better promote, your book and your program to the masses?
I say, if you want to better promote this, start to promote the values of your kids at home. The things that they are watching on TikTok and learning about are the things that we should be really excited about. You want to learn more about what I do, you can go to milesoflearning.com. You can check out my YouTube channel, Miles Harvey, or on Twitch, you can follow live or watch what we're doing in action on educated_Lobo. I think it can lead you to a job, and a lot of people want these defined outcomes in learning. I would say for the first time ever, we don't really know where it's going to go, but we know it's in a positive direction. And, you know, for a parent, that's kind of all we want to hear. We don't really want to know the end goal. The video game industry makes more than the movie industry, the Netflix industry, every industry. So, I mean, if we're going to be talking about Albuquerque, we're going to be talking about economics, we're going to be talking about esports.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming on here. We don't have much time. I do want to mention that there are some esports that actually lead to scholarships. And we can't fit everything in that we needed to because you're a fascinating guest, but I'd like to appreciate you coming on here, and thanks for your time. And we learned so much today.
Yeah, so stay tuned to the next segment. We've got another guest coming on who's a fascinating guy, Matt Binder.
Yeah.
He's all about UABQ, so stay tuned. That's coming up next in this segment. We're joined by Matthew Binder, who's an author, a solar engineer specialist. He's a longtime friend of the show, and he's here to talk to us about a new project he's got coming on. He's got a book that's out for publishing and should be hitting the shelves early next year. Matty, dude, you got a lot. That's a hell of a resume you've got put together. The reason you're here, number one, is the book. So fantastic. Congratulations getting your third book published.
Hey, thank you. New novel coming out next year called Pure Cosmos Club. It's about a struggling artist in New York City who's sort of like wealth adjacent, like his sort of like best friend, frenemy, nemesis is like the son of like a billionaire hedge fund manager. And of course, so like the rich guy's like career is going like great, and the struggling artist's career is not going so well. And he ends up like meeting a like a new age guru at a party in the Hamptons, and he sort of falls under the influence of this guru. And he sort of spirals into this cult, but like the guru is just trying to like get to his like rich friend, right? So, book's called Pure Cosmos Club, comes out next May. My girlfriend at the time, her like good friend was like engaged to Ray Dalio's son, who Ray Dalio is like the biggest hedge fund manager in the world, and so just like watching this kid like Mark Dalio operate in the world as a like a person who just like has a helicopter at beck and call and stuff like that, and then like sort of the guru character came from like another friend was dating this guy who led these like large scale like mass meditations at like Madison Square Garden. And
Oh, wow.
You guys should get him on the show sometime. And he can just basically tell everyone to be quiet for like 20 minutes.
Yeah,
that would make a great episode.
Yeah, I am a good hockey
Really
coach. I
good
could do that.
TV.
Yeah.
It's just not talk at all.
How do you even get started in writing books? I think that the world right now is so fast paced with digital media.
Actually, this is a story about you that I don't think you know. We were both living in California. We were both in Albuquerque at the time. This is like 12 years ago, probably. And I was driving us back from Albuquerque to San Diego, and you were deathly ill. And so you were like asleep in the car, and he required absolute silence in the car. I wasn't allowed to play music while he slept, and this was like pre-headphones, I guess. I don't know.
Grumpy.
So I outlined a novel in my head during this 12-hour drive while Skip slept. Every time I come into town, there's like new stuff opening up. A few years ago, a place like Albuquerque wouldn't have been able to sort of support a big thriving community of businesses like that.
A couple of things that I always like to talk to you about, Matt, is economically. Let's chat about what are some of the drivers here in, Matt will go macro, New Mexico, but also Albuquerque itself.
Yeah, I mean, I think one like big driver is certain like California, for instance, has just become just far too expensive for anyone to like raise a family. It's almost impossible to buy a house unless you're a millionaire. So I think a lot of people are leaving California. There's mass exodus, and they're looking for a great place to live. There's Arizona next door, but too hot, and it's already kind of like whatever. It's just like a giant mall. But Albuquerque's got New Mexico's got a little bit more soul, and there's people come here for the outdoors. Sunny 300 days a year, skiing, mountain biking. I heard they have an amazing hockey team at UNM.
That's correct.
Someone told me that.
Yeah.
Well, traditionally, New Mexico's always been an oil and gas state, peppered in with government jobs. We have Kirtland Air Force Base. What we're seeing now is an influx of younger companies. We have Facebook, Intel's doing an expansion, Amazon's got a big facility here. What are you seeing on the jobs front as far as, how are things progressing along here economically.
Yeah, no, like you said, like oil, gas, mining, those are like sort of like been like the foundation of like New Mexico's economy for a long time. And then also like a lot of like federal investment, like you were saying, like Sandia Labs, Kirtland Air Force Base. So this is like scientific, research and development. I think the Fed and the state government are still the biggest employers in the state. Yeah, now all these new tech companies are coming in. Like Netflix has a huge presence here. They have a big production hub, and they just invested another $1 billion into expanding the studio, and that should be completed in 2024. Facebook has put $2 billion into like data servers here.
There's a lot of good stuff going on, and I like you bringing that up. It's pertinent and it's relevant to how we're progressing.
I want to thank Matthew Binder for stopping by, sharing his new novel. Matt, how can the folks follow you online?
My website is matthewbinder.net. I also have an Instagram and a Twitter. You just Google my name, you'll find me.
Coming up in the next episode, we're going to wrap up, talk a little bit about the show today and what to expect in future episodes. But also, I just want to reiterate, you're going to want to stay tuned to the very end as we jump into Skip's Tips is going to give you one nugget that you can either take with you or leave behind. It's just a tip that will make your life a little bit easier. So did you know it's this time of year as we get into Black Friday and Thanksgiving, coming into Christmas, the United States Post Office estimates about 14 billion with a B packages will be delivered between Thanksgiving all the way out to New Year's. So one study came back and said that one of the number one drivers for stress-inducing incidences around the holiday season, no, it's not talking about Donald Trump at Thanksgiving, it's porch pirates. You get your kid the last toy on Amazon, it gets delivered, you show up and it's gone. Well, how do we remedy against that? That is what Skip's Tips is about today. We've all been that victim. So a couple things you could do. Number one is the video doorbell camera, right? And the best part about the video doorbell camera, it catches the guy and then you just share it with your friends and you get a laugh out of it. Okay, that doesn't really work. What else you can do is have a designated hiding spot for parcels when they get delivered. At our house, it's hidden in a place that's behind a bush. You'll never know it. And last thing, get a dog. I don't know. But either way, I hope you took some time to enjoy this Skip's Tip. Man, what a fantastic show we had today. A couple of great guests and Dr. Miles Harvey, Matt Binder. Again, we want to encourage you to join the conversation by getting involved. You can reach out to us using the hashtag below or join our email list to get some timely tips about what's going on in our community and real estate industry.